After the shock of an unexpected disaster, the mystery behind the tragedy still remains. What Went Wrong looks at some of the most spontaneous and devastating accidents ever recorded on video. This program uncovers the real causes behind these incredible disasters and takes an in-depth look at how future accidents can be prevented.
Pandemonium strikes as a 7,000-pound African elephant attacks her trainers at a circus in Honolulu, Hawaii. The audience watches in terror as the elephant, named Tyke, lowers her head to crush one man as another lies limp. It's a horrifying sight for spectator Anne-Marie Pesa.
I think I will never forget the image of this elephant with her ears up and the trump up and making this incredible noise. She was really, really angry.
As the two trainers lie helpless, the elephant turns her attention toward the audience. People scramble to escape. Circus publicist Steve Hirano rushes to calm the panic-stricken crowd.
Things were happening so rapidly, you don't think, or you don't have time to think about what's happening. My only concern was to see that the audience was safe, that people wouldn't get in the way of the elephant.
The screams of frightened children momentarily distract Tyke from the two injured men, until finally she flees the auditorium. Tyke streaks through downtown Honolulu with Hirano in close pursuit.
I never ran so fast in my life, and at the same time I had a cellular phone in my back pocket and I was trying to call 911.
People run for their lives as armed police officers join in the chase. But not until she runs into a gated parking lot does Hirano believe they have a chance of stopping the rampaging elephant.
I closed the gate behind them. I just so happened to look up and there was the elephant right in my face. And she just pushed that gate and I went flying back.
Tyke thrashes him around, preparing to crush him with her head. Just as she gets ready to attack Hirano again, police officers open fire. Seriously wounded, Tyke runs for her life, leaving Hirano on the ground with only a broken foot.
The police officers were told that they could not fire unless a human life was in danger. Their firing at that timely moment really saved my life.
As Tyke collapses against a car, police wait for a veterinarian from the Honolulu Zoo to arrive. In her hour-long rampage, the elephant has now attacked and injured 3 people, and Steve Hirano is lucky to have escaped with his life. When zoo officials arrive, they quickly assess Tyke's wounds. The elephant is now unconscious and slowly dying. Fearful that the tranquilizers they have brought will not end Tyke's misery quickly, a zoo veterinarian asks the police to fire a shot into Tyke's heart. When this fails to kill her, doctors inject her with an overdose of tranquilizers. Minutes later, Tyke is dead.
It's unfortunate that they had to eventually kill the elephant, that they had to take a life. But it's not for me to judge at that point in time. I think that could the elephant have been contained? I really don't know.
paramedics attend to 12 audience members who were injured and rush both trainers to the hospital. One trainer survives, suffering only a broken nose. The second dies of head trauma caused by Tyke's crushing blows. As circus workers begin the cleanup, the question on everyone's mind is what caused Tyke's rampage. Witnesses say that one of the trainers spooked Tyke by walking too close behind her. Michael D., curator of mammals at the Los Angeles Zoo, disputes this claim.
I would be surprised that walking behind the animal would spook it, because this was an animal that was used to having people wander all around it.
D stresses that elephants are usually not aggressive creatures, but like all wild animals, when frightened, their defensive actions can be deadly.
If they feel that it is a real threat, they will follow through and hit whatever is in their way. Normally, if they weren't really frightened, they would bluff and then go off in another direction.
I think the elephant tried more to get away than really to harm people.
Tyke's story is not an isolated incident. Since 1990, 9 people have been killed by circus and zoo elephants in the United States alone. As the people of Honolulu recover from Tyke's deadly rampage, the tragic episode underscores the possible consequences of bringing animals in from the wild. It raises the question of whether it is right to keep a wild animal in captivity for the entertainment or even education of the public. A routine mop-up operation at an oil tank fire in South Texas. Firefighters relax, believing they are out of danger. But suddenly, without warning, a deadly fireball sends them running for their lives. The woman running is volunteer firefighter Rosie Garcia.
I thought that if I didn't get there fast to get away from it, I was gonna die. It was hot.
It begins as an uneventful summer day for the firefighters in Three Rivers, Texas. But when the alarm sounds for an oil tank fire, they quickly respond. The tank, which holds oil from field wells, has overflowed. A spark, possibly from a passing car, ignited the spilled oil. The fire spreads into the tank, and now 20,000 gallons of highly combustible crude oil are burning, creating plumes of jet black smoke. It will not be an easy fire to extinguish.
It was big. You could see it from miles away. It looked very scary.
News cameraman David Villarreal is dispatched to cover the unfolding disaster.
It was probably about 95 degrees. It was a hot summer day. I had no idea how hot it was going to get.
Hey, Tim, what's going on?
Villarreal videotapes the scene from a respectful distance. But soon he moves in for a closer look. Firefighters spray fire-retardant foam to extinguish the flames outside. The foam cuts off the fire's oxygen supply to smother it. But getting it to the oil inside is a problem. The only opening is a small hatch on top of the tank. So firefighters must shoot foam through the opening, trying to hit a very small target. They use a lot of foam, and when the flames go down, they think it worked.
Everybody seemed to be confident that the fire was being put out. You can see some of the firefighters actually drinking soda and having sandwiches.
But the fire only appears to be under control. Suddenly, it explodes back to life in a massive fireball, catching everyone by surprise.
I'm turning my camera, I could see it rising and billowing pretty quick.
The temperature of the fireball is estimated to be more than 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit, hot enough to melt steel.
covered my eyes and I'm rolling, I could see my eyepiece, what I was shooting. That's when I got burned, right there. I don't know what would have happened if I hadn't blocked my eyes.
Villarreal points his camera behind him and sprints to safety.
And I ran as fast as I could. And I realized that I was burnt, I was in pain. And there for a minute, I thought I wasn't gonna make it. It was that scary.
Damn it! I got my arm burned.
You okay?
You burn up?
A little. It felt like it was getting hot and hotter. And then I looked at it and it was red. Then by the time I looked at it again, it had blisters on it.
What did you think about when the explosion happened? What did you think about it?
I didn't have much to think, I just ran.
The blisters started to swell, and it got very uncomfortable, and the pain just wouldn't go away. But I had no choice but to keep shooting because it was burnt people worse than I was.
Luckily, no one is killed. Paramedics rush the severely wounded to the hospital. Only then does Villarreal finally seek medical attention for himself. But even then, he doesn't turn off his camera. He hands it to a reporter to document his own first aid. Firefighters again attack the fire with foam. It is an hour before the fire is under control, and 4 hours before they are sure the blaze is out. The question on everyone's mind is, what happened?
What do you think caused that explosion?
Just water inside the tank boil over, crude boil over.
The firefighter turns out to be right. The fire retardant foam is quite effective, and if enough of it had reached the fire, it would have smothered it. But the small rooftop hatch made it hard to get enough foam to the source of the flames. The fire crew mistakenly believed it had extinguished the blaze. Instead, oil continued to burn inside the tank, unseen. In time, the heat liquefied the foam. It then sank to the bottom, and as it got hotter, began boiling. It built up a tremendous head of pressure, and finally burst to the surface in a massive fireball of steam and burning oil. Rosie Garcia's close brush with death has lasting effects, prompting her to quit the volunteer fire service.
I'm still having nightmares about it sometimes. That's why most of the time I just block it.
David Villarreal's burns are not serious, but he's never forgotten how close he came to dying.
And I've covered quite a bit of tragedies and fires and shootouts and put myself in some very dangerous situations, but that one there, I thought for a second, it's time for me to go.
Ultimately, everyone was lucky to have escaped at all. The fact that the oil was hard to reach made conditions extremely hazardous. A more experienced crew would not have relaxed its guard while still unsure that the fire was completely out. In the heat of this moment, the firefighters' narrow escape was a reminder of the volatile nature of fire. Steeplechasing is the most dangerous equestrian sport of all. With its roots in fox hunting, a steeplechase course can feature 30 to 50 jumps, log fences, stone walls, hedges, even creeks. Every race course is different. The only constant is the risk of injury. In Australia, the premier steeplechase is the Adelaide Cup. 70,000 fans are on hand to see 26 jockeys vie for $100,000 in prize money.
Gun at the rail and wandering jerk 3 deep as they go to the next big brush.
Veteran jockey Simon Mills and his mount Sir Sagamore are considered one of the favorites with odds of 8 to 1.
The moment you and the horse are brought together on race day, there's got to be a team sort of effort put in.
They're off. And Roman
The track is fast and the race goes smoothly.
It was Sir Sagamore as they clear the first, and over they go.
As they near the finish, Simon and Sir Sagamore are in second place. But on the third to last jump, Mills is thrown.
On the approach to the fence, everything was right up until about 3 or 4 strides away, and then that's when it all started. He shortened stride, and that's when I realised his timing was out. Everything was out. On the landing side of the fence, I was all over his neck in the wrong position and bailing out.
Mills is thrown forward over Sir Sagamore's neck and hits the ground in the middle of the pack. In an instant, he realizes his foot is caught in the stirrup.
I didn't even have time to panic, but I can remember crossing through my mind, you know, I'm definitely a wheelchair job. You know, that's all I could see were wheelchairs.
It's almost impossible for Mills to get out of the stirrup now, according to trainer Hunter Nenman.
He got popped loose in the air over the jump. His foot probably lifted up out of the stirrup a little bit, and it just slipped right through his foot. Once it goes through the stirrup, it's really hard to get it out.
The moment I noticed my foot was caught, naturally I tried to pull it free, but at that speed I was just a bit like a bag of potatoes.
But the real trouble is just ahead. Another jump, 4 feet high, made of solid logs. If the horse slams Mills into the fence, it will likely kill him.
Wondering whether you're going to be alive in another few seconds, it was just terrifying.
Sir Sagamore does take the jump, but flies so high, he catapults Simon completely over the top of the fence.
It was just lucky the horse took off a lot earlier than he normally would have, and catapulted me over it, you know, clear of the jump. When I landed the other side and thought, you know, I haven't hit this fence, I'm still all right. But then I still had the problem of, when's this thing going to end?
The jockeys behind Mills witnessed the accident. They are sure that his situation is hopeless, including his friend and fellow jockey, David Londrigan.
The way his body was getting flung around, it was just like a rag doll, and I honestly thought that he was dead.
Mills is still being dragged, and there are 2 more fences ahead. Londrigan gives up all thought of finishing the race and tries to save his friend instead.
When we went over the fence, I thought he was dead, and that's why I sort of thought, well, I can't let the body get dragged up the straight.
Londrigan fights to get Sir Sagamore under control by jamming him towards the rail. The horse slows. Again, Mills is flung into the air, but finally his foot comes out of the stirrup and he rolls to a stop.
I moved my head from side to side and give my toes a wiggle, and I thought, well, I'm still intact. It wasn't until I went to get my helmet off I realised my arm was back up behind my head.
Mills realizes his left arm is broken, but he has no complaints. He knows how fortunate he is to be alive.
If I'd hit the fence full on, they'd be putting me in a bag. If I just hit it, maybe I would have got away with just, you know, no use in my arms and my legs. But to completely miss the fence was freakish. It was truly amazing.
In steeplechasing, 1,500-pound horses and 100-pound jockeys are a dangerous mix. The control the jockey has over his horse is crucial.
You're working with an animal that is upwards of 5'8", you know, 1,500 pounds. They have a very small brain.
Hunter Nenman trains both horses and riders.
You're asking horses to jump and take all 4 feet off the ground and land on the other side of a jump and hope that all 4 feet come with you. It doesn't always happen.
Horses are easily distracted. If it happens in a race, the consequences can be disastrous.
If a plastic bag blows by, they're going to stop and look at it and go, oh, whoa, what was that? And that's where sometimes your horse will run out, or they might add a stride or try and leave out a stride in front of the jump. Their attention span is very short.
Picasso, maybe Ruff has made a huge run. He's gone.
Sir Sagamore lost his concentration, mistimed his jump, and threw his rider. But thanks in part to a fellow jockey, Simon Mills survived.
Normally I was one of the toughest steeplechase riders around. I'd knock them down and flatten them and do all sorts of things to win a race. But this particular day, yeah, it just, the race, as I said, just went out of my mind, and I just tried to my darndest to try and save him.
He knows how I feel, and I owe my life to him.
In Adelaide, racing fans will always remember Simon Mills as the jockey who had both an incredible accident and the good luck to survive it. Mexico City is one of the most chaotic places on Earth. Over 20 million people are crammed into this sprawling, smog-choked metropolis. TV newsman Eduardo Salazar and his cameraman Jorge Pliego report on the city's traffic gridlock every day.
I am in the helicopter all mornings. We do news traffic, and if there is an accident or something like that, we'll report it.
This morning, Pliego spots a fire on the railroad tracks below.
We saw a huge column of smoke, and they told us that it was a crash, a big crash. Fuel tank crashed against the train. The fire was all around the train and all around the vehicle.
You get excited and your adrenaline starts pumping.
The news chopper moves in for a closer look. A tanker truck loaded with 3,000 gallons of gasoline has been hit by a train carrying 30 passengers and is burning. Yet traffic continues to pass by as if nothing has happened. No one seems to realize how dangerous the situation could become. The crash starts a fire that is rapidly heating up the gasoline still sealed in one of the tanker compartments. It is a potentially explosive situation, yet there's no sign of firefighters who are delayed by traffic. Police, led by Miguel Cardenas Enriquez, risk their lives to evacuate the train passengers.
We had to take care of the people in danger. I mean, we as policemen cannot think about what can happen to us.
Because of the heat, pressure inside the tanker builds dangerously. The train's passengers are now safely removed, but Enriquez sees a young child wandering in the street near the fire.
I made signs for him to leave, but he didn't do it. So I ran to him to pull him away, but in that very moment, the explosion occurred.
500 feet above the accident, Salazar and Pliego feel the heat of the blast.
And suddenly, a huge explosion came all over the place. The big ball of fire was getting closer to the helicopter, so it was very scary for us.
But you keep on recording. If the helicopter were closer, the fragments of the truck would have hit the helicopter.
Down on the street, Enriquez shields the young boy from the blast with his body.
The explosion wave threw me way to the other side of the street. I felt something burning me when I fell down.
The boy is unharmed, but Enriquez and the other officers are seriously burned. But thanks to their efforts, there are no deaths. Firefighters arrive and attack the blaze with special foam. The fire is quickly extinguished. 4 weeks later, Enriquez and his men are back on the job, but still nursing their second and third degree burns. The accident happened at this busy rail crossing in the poor working class area of Campestro Guadalupana. On the morning of the crash, the neighborhood was busy as always, and traffic across the tracks was steady. Unfortunately, in a scene played out at rail crossings all over Mexico City, cars and trucks race to beat the trains.
The problem was the truck driver. He tried to beat the train, but it is impossible. It was careless of the driver.
The decrepit state of Mexico's rail system is also to blame, says journalist Victor Staffron.
The railroad has always been very, very old. There are trains from the 1920s, and that is why the signals have not been updated. And because of not updating them, there is a greater risk of accidents. People now feel unsafe traveling by train.
Ya se siente insegura viajando en tren.
The accident site has no barriers or flashing lights to warn of trains.
In Mexico, there's many cross trains that don't have the signs, the correct signs, to alert the people, the drivers, that the train is going to pass.
After the accident, the driver of the truck went into hiding to evade criminal charges. The number of trains using the crossing was cut back after the explosion, but thousands of badly marked crossings remain all across Mexico City. Until the railroad crossings are upgraded, many people in this crowded capital worry that it's only a matter of time before a similar incendiary incident happens again. For those who pursue it, sport ballooning has an almost mystical appeal. Architect Dick Monday has been an avid balloonist since the early 70s.
You're walking amongst 6- and 7-story buildings of this incredibly colored fabric, and then suddenly they start to lift off, and it's like your world changes. It's magic.
But however fanciful balloons seem, they are the most dangerous of all aircraft. Each year, 1 out of every 50 balloonists has an accident that causes serious injury or death. Yet the sport's popularity continues to rise. Every October, balloonists from all over the world gather in New Mexico for the Albuquerque International Balloon Fiesta. During the 9 days, more than 800 hot air balloons are launched into the skies of the American Southwest. It was there that Dick Monday learned ballooning's golden rule.
It's better to be on the ground wishing you were in the air than to be in the air wishing you were on the ground. And I can tell you that that day, I was wishing I was on the ground.
Festival officials asked Dick to take a reporter up for a ride. He agrees, and he and his crew begin to prepare his balloon, Rosie Baby. Balloons stay aloft with hot air heated by a propane flame. Cut the heat, and they come down. And in ballooning, landings are frequently crash landings. Balloons can't really be steered. They float at the mercy of the wind. But how much wind is safe depends on the pilot's experience and skill, and also on whether the landing terrain is free from obstacles. But more than half of all balloon accidents are related to high winds. On this day, 8-mile-an-hour winds are blowing in Albuquerque. It's what weathermen call gusty. Festival officials issue a warning. Pilots are told to fly at their own discretion.
I had about 250 hours of airtime in hot air balloons. I had developed a level of confidence to take off that day. I made the decision to fly.
About 10 minutes into the flight, the winds increase.
We were moving at a faster rate than I was accustomed to traveling, and I could see other balloons around us having some difficulty maintaining their control over the aircraft.
Dick finds himself in a strong wind, heading straight for the Albuquerque airport. He looks frantically for a safe landing site, then spots what looks like a clear field.
It was fairly small, but I felt that I had enough control over the aircraft that even given the conditions, I could stop in the short distance that we had available in that field.
Al Minazzoli is videotaping the balloon festival from his motel balcony when he sees Rosie Baby approaching.
There was power lines in his way that he probably couldn't see. They blended in. I couldn't see them. I didn't even know they were there.
Dick has no time to raise or lower his balloon.
I was maybe 30, 40 feet from the lines when I saw them. We had 4 or 5 seconds before we impacted. I said to my passenger, we're going into the lines, get in the bottom of the basket, don't touch the metal tanks, and hang on.
Dick barely has time to shut off the propane tanks when his balloon strikes the wires.
Uh-oh, that didn't sound good, did it?
No, it's power lines.
A circuit breaker shuts off the current, but the balloon is caught.
We should go call with ambulance.
Go call something.
Okay.
Go ahead.
For nearly 30 seconds, the balloon hangs precariously.
Call a rescue or something.
And I think, Great, we made it. Fuel's all shut off. We're still alive.
But the circuit breaker is programmed to send a test charge through the wires after 30 seconds. Suddenly, 10,000 volts surge through the line.
Oh, Jesus. Oh, Jesus. It just burned through the roof. Oh, Jesus.
The current ignites residual propane in the hoses. The basket crashes to the ground.
The one person on the right of the bucket got out of the basket. Now, there was somebody else in there. You could almost feel it. I mean, it was so loud and intense, my heart missed a beat.
I remember seeing the flash. I remember the fall. I don't remember the impact. I remember people arriving. I was out of the basket lying on the ground.
The passenger has only minor injuries, but Dick suffers 6 broken bones, including his ribs, pelvis, and shoulder. An investigation by the Federal Aviation Administration attributes the accident to pilot error.
They were correct. I made the decision to fly, and I made the decision to land. I didn't see the power lines.
Yet Dick feels confident that he did everything he could to minimize the damage.
I think I exercised, given the conditions, good judgment and saved our lives. My passenger and I were fortunate. Had I not turned off the tanks, I'm reasonably sure neither one of us would have survived.
Today, pilots in the Albuquerque Balloon Fiesta are given detailed maps showing major landmarks, landing sites, and obstacles. Officials now cancel flights if winds reach 10 miles an hour. Balloonists still fly at nature's mercy, playing with fire as they go. Yet, despite the danger, this ancient form of flight continues to weave its spell.